one of my earliest memories is touching a mummy when you could still do something like that in a museum. You could like poke your finger through a glass at the Springfield Museum.
That.
Oh, sure.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. No, that was like super formative. But
that's the fungus.
I think this was like irradiated or whatever.
One of the pictures I do have in my brain that does stay with me was when I was younger and I was at the cabin with my parents. And my mom was doing yoga on the porch. And she was down getting ready to do a cobra, stretch herself up. And the storm window fell out of the window frame and fell on top of her. And luckily she was in a position where her head was down and wasn't up. I remember my father running and yelling her name. And she said, I'm okay, I'm okay. And they got the window off of her. But I remember that like kind of horrified.
And it stuck with you all this time.
It stuck with me. I saw her, she was on the floor, and the wind blew the storm window in. It wasn't fastened, and it just toppled right down on top of her and shattered.
So like a still photo, you saw her
on the ground with the window on top of her shattered.
Glass all over.
Glass all over the place.
Huh?
Yeah, that was it.
It looked like what I knew it was, which is this massive, heavy metal that kind of fell and almost bounced. And that is something you always see as stationary, contained. This was by itself rather than contained in a car, falling off of a truck.
So you can see it now if you...
Yeah, no, it's a very memorable kind of event, you know. And so, no, I was driving in the tunnel and a truck in front of me had old junk motors and things on it. And one of them fell off the truck and kind of like just went thud, but it's like this huge mass of steel that, cast iron, that the way it fell, you would expect it to bounce. It was dead weight, it didn't bounce at all, but it rolled a bit. And it was like something that, you know, you just assume is there to stay where it is. You never dream of it falling off towards you. It's almost like an affront of sorts. I took it personally.
The actor in the movie, The Elephant Man, you know, he had all the makeup on, but he was playing an actual person that had the disease where he had the deformity. I guess the Elephant Man.
I used to stay with my grandmother, and she had a tiny little one-bedroom apartment on the port of Bandol, which is a small town in south of France, by the Mediterranean Sea. And in France, the July 14 is our Bastille Day, so it's like the 4th of July here, so we have fireworks. And we had the best seat in town because we were just facing the port, so we could see all of the fireworks coming and the people passing by, and they usually had markets where people could get food or other things, sometimes little pieces of art. So those are really some of the image if you're thinking about light and lighting images.
Probably 70 years ago. I slipped on a moss-covered dock at a lake or a pond, and I went over the edge and down, and the image, obviously my father jumped in and saved me or I wouldn't have the image, but the image is of the green and orange color of the ladder as I drifted down. I didn't know how to swim, I didn't fight it, and I'll never forget the way that ladder looked. It was incredible, against the water, you know, in the water.
And you were not afraid?
No, I just relaxed, and I was drifting down.
I don't think I've ever really had that happen.
I guess the picture in both times are rats.
Okay.
I grew up in western Pennsylvania, and I remember going once with like 2 or 3 boys, and we sat, the grain shop was by the railroad, and it was built up off the ground, and there were like rats underneath it, of course, and we had guns, and we were shooting the rats. So I remember that as a very strong visual kind of I wasn't supposed to be doing it. And, you know, it was scary, but it wasn't scary. I had a gun.
Did you remember what an individual rat looked like, or what they
Yes.
came out of when you
Yes,
saw
they
them?
were scurrying around, and yeah, I remember exactly
So
what the rat
what did
looked.
you
They
see
weren't
them?
little.
What
They
did
were
you see?
big.
Yeah.
They were chubby with long tails.
And were you on
And
top,
I
standing
wasn't-
amongst them?
Around the edge, and there was like a pit underneath this grain store. And I kept thinking, well, what am I doing here? But I wasn't afraid because I was so into the visual. Maybe the visual was a distraction for the fear.
And what was the visual?
The rats.
No, but I mean, what were they doing?
They were like walking around, and then when the guns start going, they were scurrying, and then they hid. Yeah.
Where I have maybe not really woken up, but like where I have been a little unconscious, and I've actually seen my body, like me rise out of my body and look down on my body twice, actually.
And I just want to hide inside the ferns that are this tall.
Did you do it?
Sure.
What did it look like?
I felt like I was alone, and it was wonderful, and I was all around lush greenery, and it was, they were unfurling the tips, some tips, like the, I can't think of the name of the ferns, like
Fiddleheads.
fiddleheads, but they were spectacular because they were really tall and full. My brother was in the Charles River Regatta rowing for Northeastern in 1966, and I was watching him. I think, did I say it was 12 or so? Kinds of oars would crash into the side of the bridge near the waters, and I was a little girl, all worried about my big brother. My brother was 6'5".
It is big.
And he was 7 years old. 7 years older than me, and he was my hero.
I'm going to give two images that were very striking to me in early days. One was age 12 in home ec class, which was mandatory at the time, grade 7, and it was a bright sunny day, old Victorian building, big shades flapping in the sun and the breeze, windows open. And I was working on my home ec assignment, whatever it was, 1 minute. The next minute, I awakened, I could see the ceiling, and I saw a circle of young female faces hovering over me, giggling nervously, titillated, frightened, all the above things. I felt alien, shall we say. The second one was riding a bus home from a shopping trip to Boston, and it's a several-hour bus ride at the time, and I awakened to lying halfway on the floor, halfway on a seat, sort of wedged in with these old women in black dresses hovering over me, and they were thrusting crosses at me and scowling and murmuring incantations of some sort against me or the devil in me, whatever. It was hostile and terrifying.
I really can't think of much.